මම කාංචනා නදීෂානි. මම සාමාන්‍ය පෙළින් පස්සේ AAT පාඨමාලාව කළා. මම AAT පාඨමාලාවෙන් දිවයිනේ ප්‍රථම ස්ථානය ලබා ගත්තා. මගේ හීනය කළමනාකරන ගණකාධිකාරීවරයෙක් වීම. මම ඒ සඳහා CMA පාඨමාලාව තෝරගත්තා. නංගිල මල්ලටත් ආරාධනා කරනවා ඔයාලගේ වෘත්තීය ජීවිතේ ජය ගන්න CMA එක අත්වැල් බඳගන්න කියලා.
ලෝහ පිළිගත් කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරීවරයෙකු වීමට පාර්ලිමේන්තු පන්තින් සංස්ථාපනය කරන ලද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ එකම කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරී ආයතනය CMA Sri Lanka.
Ayubowan. Today we are going to discuss about the communication topic in the advanced level subject of business studies. So in this communication topic, first we are going to see what is the definition of the communication. So here you can see the definition of the communication. Communication can be defined as sending and receiving information, understanding and sharing information from one party to another or many parties. So when you look at this definition of the communication, there are some important words that you should understand. So what are these important words that you should remember specially? We'll see. Communication can be defined as sending and receiving. So it is very important. In communication, there are two parties involved, that is sender and receiver. So communication is all about sending and receiving what? Information. So we are sending and receiving information in terms of a message. Then after receiving this information, what the receiving party will do? They should understand it. When the message is received by the receiver, they should clearly understand what the sender has sent. And if the receiving party wants කොහොමද බලන්න ඕනේ? ඒ පැත්තත් බලන්න වෙනවා. හරි. So when the receiving party receives the message, they should understand the message, and also they should share the message if they want. So if the sending party understand the message, they should act on that, and based on their act, they can share the message if they want with the other parties as well. And there is another thing that you should remember, that is who is sending this message? One party. So the message will be sent in by one party and it will be received by the one party or many parties. I mean, one party is sending and another party is receiving, and also it can be received by many parties as well. Okay, so you should remember, when a sender sends the message, the receiver will be a one receiver or maybe many receivers. So that you should understand when you define this communication. The definition of the communication, it says you should send a message and you should receive a message, and there should be understanding, sharing, and who will receive the message? Maybe one party or many parties. So this is the definition of the communication that you will get in this topic. Okay. So we will go to the elements of the communication. So in elements of the communication, there are actually 6 elements of the communication. You can see the first element will be the sender of the message. That is, the person who initiates the message is called the sender. Sender is the person who initiates. He is the one who develops the message or take the action of initiating the message. So we call that person is the sender of the message. So once the sender initiates the message should be developed. Now in this particular lecture, in this particular program, I am delivering my message to you all. So even the sender is there, if I am not deliver anything, there won't be any message. Okay? So my information that I am verbally telling information will be the message. And there should be a medium or channel for the sender to send this message for the receiver. So we call that medium or channel. So we will look at this medium or channel in later as well. But here you should remember, either we can use orally oral medium for the as the medium, and also written medium. We can write something and send to the receiver, and also we can use signs or symbols as the message. So either one should select in order to send this message to the receiver. Then other one is the recipients, that is the receiver of the message. So when the sender sends the message, the receiver should receive the message. So that is called the recipients. So these recipients can be one person, it is called recipient. If it is two or more persons, we call recipients. That is in definition, I think you can remember, one party or many parties can receive the message. And after a recipient receives the message, he or she should act on it. That is, the receiver or the recipient should do some activity based on the message he got or he or she got. So that is called response. Okay? So response is the act or activity that recipients will do after he or she receives the message. And what is feedback? Feedback, after recipient act or do some based on the message he received, sometimes the recipient can give a feedback or give a message back to the sender that I have done this thing, and if there are any problems in the communication channel or whether there are any improvements for the communication channel or any changes to be done, then those things can be sent to the sender or give as the feedback to the sender by the recipients as feedback. So response is not the feedback. Response may not known to the sender as well, but sometimes recipients will give a feedback to the sender. Okay? So these are the elements of the communication channel or communication process rather. So you should remember all these 6 elements very clearly in order to have this communication process to be done. Okay. I will go through a small example with you all to get you all to identify what are these elements of the communication channel. So when you read this scenario, you should have the knowledge to identify or to grab what are the elements of the of a communication, or what are the elements of the communication process. Okay, so now we will read this small scenario that I have given. The Chief Executive Officer has informed with a notifying letter to all the managers to make all the employees participate in online employee training program held by the organization of 2nd of December 2020. In response, all the managers have sent emails to CEO informing that they have informed all the employees in their departments and have made necessary arrangements for it. So this is the scenario that given to you. So now you have to have the understanding, or you should have the ability to grab what are the elements of the communication process. We will see who is the sender. The sender is the CEO. He is the one who initiates this message. Okay? We are calling it as a sender. Sender is the person who initiates the message. So it is here the CEO, that is Chief Executive Officer. Then what is the message that sender has sent? The message is, make all the employees participate in the online employee training program held by the organization on 2nd December 2020. So that is the message that he wants to give to the to their managers or to his managers. So this is the message that he delivered. What is the medium he used? Actually, what he has done, he has informed with a notifying letter. He has wrote a letter. So it is a written communication he used as the medium. He used the written communication. So the medium is written. Okay, the method that he used is the letter. That is a separate thing. Okay, we can use we should select a communication medium, and there are many methods that you can select under a particular medium. So here the medium is written and he has selected letter as the method. So we will discuss what are these different kinds of methods in later as well. Then recipients. Who is the recipients? All the managers of the organization. He sent this letter. What is the response of the managers? After receiving the message, all the managers informed the respective employees and made necessary arrangements for it. This is the act that the managers has done after they receives the message. After they receives the message of the CEO, this is the response they done. They act on it and they send a message to all the respective employees that they have to participate on this particular program. Then what is the feedback? In this scenario, we got a feedback as well. What is the feedback? They inform the chief executive officer through an email that all necessary arrangements are made. That managers, they inform the CEO that they have sent this information to the to their employees and they have made all the arrangements. So that is the feedback that got from the go to the sender from the recipient. So as I told you already, the feedback is not always there in the communication process. Sometimes the sender may not get anything as the feedback, but in some cases they can get a feedback from the recipients. Okay, so we will go to the communication process. So in communication process, these all the elements are now in one picture, how this process is happening, okay, or how this process is going to be happen. Okay, now you know what are the elements. So the sender is there, okay, the sender is there, and the sender, as I told you, he or she should develop a message, or he or she should initiate or originate a message. Okay, if I use a written communication, then I should write the message. If I use the oral communication, then I should say the message, or I should record the message. Or if I use any symbols, then I have to look at that symbols as well. So I have to make the message or origin or initiate the message. So that is called the messaging or the message. And for that we use, as I told you earlier, the media, that is either written, oral or signs or symbols, right? So that is the media that we use. And once the message is done, it should goes to the receiver. So the receiver will receive the message. So in between that, you can see another two concepts, right, or terms. First one is encoding. What is this encoding, right? Encoding is actually, now when the sender initiates the message, that is, if I have something to tell for my employees in an organization, so there should be some process that I should involved in. When I communicate something, some information to my employees, I should make some process. Now if I want to write this message, then I have to take all the papers, pens, and I have to collect the information, then I should start writing. If I type in an email, I should collect all the information, I should go to the email account and open it and have to type it. So the typing process, maybe the writing process, maybe the recording process is encoding. That is, the sender's information, the sender's thinking and thoughts are converting into a message. It should be readable to the receiver, or it should be understandable to the receiver, rather readable, it should be understandable to the reader. So the message, the sender will encode the message, that is the process of converting his thinking and thoughts into a message. Okay, right. So after this message is received by the receiver should decode the message. What do you mean by decode this message? That is, the reader should understand the message. Okay, once the message is received by the receiver, he or she should understand. So based on his knowledge and based on the other surrounding factors and all that, the receiver will understand the message. So, this understanding process is called the decoding, and it is one of the key term in the in the communication definition as well, that is the understanding process. So, that is called decoding, right. After that, when the receiver receives the message, he or she will act on it. So, that is called response. Okay. So, in earlier example, you have already seen that after they receive the message from the CEO, they have informed their employees that this kind of training is going to be happen. So, that is the response. Based on the message they got by the receiver, they should act on it. And in sometimes there is a feedback as well. So, most of the time, I mean always maybe, the feedback will goes from receiver to the sender. Okay. If there are any things to be done in the communication process, any changes to be done, the change of the medium maybe, and based on the response that they got, and they can give a feedback to the sender. So, that is called feedback. Okay. So, this is actually the communication process with all the elements that that you have already gone through. Okay. Then we will see for what purpose we are using this communication. Okay. In what purpose that we are using this communication. So, we are using communication for business activities, and we are using communication for our social activities as well. So, I will first look at what are the what type of things that we do in businesses by using communication, or why we are using communication in our business activities. Okay. So, first one, to exchange ideas between parties and businesses. So, one thing that businesses will use communication in order to exchange the ideas between other parties. So, these other parties in here, it is in outside the organization, that the external parties. Who are the external parties of the business? Customers, suppliers, other organizations, government. Okay. So, those are the parties involved in the business as outside people or external world. So, the organization, they use communication in order to exchange their information, exchange their thoughts, exchange the other relevant information with the external parties. For that, they use communication. So, we use different kind of communication methods in order to communicate this information to the outside parties. So, we will look at those methods in later. Second one is to maintain employer-employee relationship. This is internal. So, we see that employer and employee are within the organization, that is in the internal organization. So, we use communication in order to maintain a good relationship with the employer and employee. In sometimes we have to give guidelines, we have to give all the information and rules and procedures, and also we should inform them about the benefits that they are getting, motivational things we have to inform them. So, all the things we have to inform them, in order to inform them we should use, or we have to use communication methods. Third one is to manage human and physical resources well. So, what is that? To manage human resources and physical resources. So, human resources are the resources that are living beings in the organization. So, humans are the living beings in the organization. So, we use communication in order to manage the human resource concept well. Okay, because if the employees are work well in the organization, only the organization can gain profits. If they can gain the market share, they can gain the goodwill if the employees work well in the organization. So, in order to make them work, we have to communicate information, we have to communicate with them, we have to build a good relationship with them. So, in order to give or build the relationship with the employees, we have to give necessary information. And also, not only the human, the physical resources as well. What are the physical resources? the equipments the organization is having, and the tools, machineries, buildings, all things are physical resources. So in order to manage these physical resources also, the organizations, they need communication. As an example, if the organization buys a new equipment, new machinery, then in order to operate this machine or this equipment, they have to go through the catalog. If the organization operate the machine without going through the catalog, then you can't operate the machine. Maybe it will be, there may be some errors. You will not get the intended objective of the equipment if you don't follow the guidelines or the procedures that have given by the manufacturing organization. So that information is in a written form. So you have to read all these things, right? So in order to manage these physical resources, and also in organization you have to keep records of these physical resources. What is the expected lifetime and all the other necessary information, the value, the cost, all these things you have to keep records of that. So in order to manage these physical resources, like I told you, you need better communication methods. Okay? Then the last one, for marketing and promotional activities. Actually, organizations, they are using these communication techniques in order to do this marketing and promotional activities very well. Okay, you can see in the television, in the radio, in the newspapers, in the internet, in social media. They are using these marketing and promotional campaigns to aware the customers that this product is, and this product or service in the market. These are the benefits, these are the features, this is the promotion that we are having currently. So in order to give those information to the customers and to the general public, they use communication methods in marketing and promotional activities. So these are the things that you can see as business activities, how the communication is using. Okay. Now we will move to the social activities. For what reason? So what are the things that we are going to do with the communication in social activities? Okay, so the first one is to exchange ideas and messages socially. Actually, a human being is a social animal, it says. A human being is a social animal. So we have to communicate with our society, okay, with our relatives, with our friends, with our parents. We have to always communicate. So in order to communicate, we use communication. Okay. So we use many methods. We will discuss those things in later of the topic, what kind of methods that we use in order to exchange ideas in our society. And the second one is to know instantly about the incidents that happen internationally. So if something's happening internationally, we should know it immediately. So in order to get that information immediately, we can use, we are using in communication methods. So in earlier days, it is very difficult to get the information which are happening in the internationally because of the problems of the old techniques. But with the internet and with the social media, now it is, even with the television, now it is very quickly we can get the information which are happening in the about the international incidents. Third one is to get information needed for educational activities. So as students, you also get information from these sources for your educational purposes. You are going to your school library, you are using internet, and you are using books, and you are using digital books even, maybe magazines, newspapers, in order to get information for your educational activities. About new inventions that come with technological improvement. So if some new invention is happening in the world, or if it is already happened, so you should know what type of development happened in the world. So that information also you can get quickly with the communication methods. To build up social relationships nationally and internationally. So this is very important. Now we are living in a global village. So we are living in an information age. Okay? So in order to build our relationships, not only in national level but in international level as well, it is very important to have these communication methods. So you can connect with the people in other parts of the world very easily with these newest communication methods without any delay. Okay? So these are the things that you can see, or you can get an understanding that what kind of social activities that we can do by using communication methods. Okay. With that, we will move to the characteristics of an effective communication. Okay. So when you are doing any communication, okay, actually we always do our communication either in written form, in verbal, or in sign or symbols, we do communication. So these are the things that you should remember, or these features or these characteristics should be there in an effective communication. So it is very important when you do when you are giving some message, these features should be there. Otherwise the receiver will not understand your message, or he or she will not act on your message, and even if he or she is respond to your message, it will not a good response, right? So what are that or characteristics that you can see an effective communication? First one is correctness. That is, in correctness, the message should be in correct form. I mean, all the information included in the message should be it should be not a false message. It should be a correct message. Okay. So the correct information should be included, not false information. Correct information should be included in a message. Second one is brevity. What is brevity? Your message should be in very short. Okay, I mean in very short form, concise message, not a very detailed. I mean, this is very particular when you are doing in an organization or a business. If you are using messages, this is very much important to have a very short and concise message, not in very detail, because these managers are always busy. Okay, so they should take any decision based on the message that they receive. So it should be in a short form, and it should be very concise, and it should be in all the information that the message has should have a correctness. Third one is completeness. What do you mean by completeness? All the information should be there. Now, if you send a message by informing your friend to come for a particular event, by giving a date but without giving a time, is it a complete message? No, it is not a complete message. So when you are writing a message, particularly in a business organization, when you convey a message, all the information should be included in the message. So that is called completeness. Clarity. Your message should be clear. Okay, your message should be clear. It should give all the information, as I told you earlier, as completeness. It should have very brevity, and I mean it should be short, so then you can achieve this clarity. And politeness, this is very important in these days, the politeness of the message. You should have a respect on the receiver of the message. Okay, you should write your message in a polite way. And certainty, you should have a clear, you should have a confidence on the message. Okay, certainty. The message should be in very confidence format. Okay, no any vague thing. The uncertainty should be not there in a message. The vague meaning should not be there in the message. It should be a certainty. And consideration. When you write a message, this is also very important. When you write a message, you should read it twice. Okay, if you write a message, you should read it twice. If you record a message, you should watch it twice. Okay, and also the symbols and signals, you should always look at again before you send to the receiver. So that is called consideration. The other point is cost. Cost is also very important, especially when you are selecting a medium. When you are selecting a medium that the message should goes, then the cost of that medium should not be it should not expensive one. Okay, especially if you want to do if I take an example, if you want to do an advertisement campaign, or an organization, if they want to do an advertisement campaign or put up an advertisement, they should select the best advertisement method based on the market that they have. If they are going to use an advertisement channel which is in high cost and the units that they are going to sell is very low, then they will end up with losses, not with profits. So it is very important when you are selecting the medium of the message, it should a cost effective method. Then the speed, that is also important. In nowadays, the speed of the message is very important. If something happen in the outside or even in the inside of the organization, then it should be communicated to the relevant parties immediately. You should not wait at least a minute, at least a second in order to communicate your message. All the things should be in your phone or in your laptop or in your computer in quicker way. So speed of the, especially for the communication channel, is very important nowadays. So these are the characteristics of a effective communication, or these are the features that you should look at when you are going to send a message. Right. Okay, now we will go to the communication media. Right, so I have already told you there are three main communication media or channels, that is written communication, oral communication, signs and symbols. So those are the three main communication media that we are using. I will take you an example. Right. So it is going to be easy for you to understand what are these types of the communication media. So in your school, this is very common example for all of us. In your school, teacher uses written messages to communicate the progress of the students. So you know the teachers, they use reports, okay, with your marks, with your grades. They use reports in order to communicate your progress to your parents. So that is a written communication, okay. The method the teacher use will be the reports, that is the method, but the media is the written message. So it can be either report, it can be either letter, it does not matter, okay. Under the written media, you will get different methods. Second one, principal addresses the assembly verbally. So when in the morning assembly, the principal will address you in verbally or in orally. So that is called oral communication or oral media or verbal media. Okay, so that is not in written form, it is in verbal form. Bell is used to indicate the changes of the period. So if in your school to change the periods, you will use the bell. So bell is a sign. Okay, it is not a written message, it is not a verbal thing, it is a sign, okay, that you are using in the school. So you can see now there are many, main three communication media that you can use. That is written message or written media, verbal media, oral media, and signs and symbols. Okay, right. So with that, we will move to the different types of or different categorization of this media. Right. So in as I told you already, the main categorization is oral, written, signs and symbols. So that is the main categorization. Okay. Under this categorization, apart from this categorization, there are two other categorizations which you can see here. Okay. Categorization 2 is internal communication and external communication. Okay. Categorization 3 is electronic communication and non-electronic communication. So categorization 1 is the main categorization. In that particular categorization, further you can divide this categorization 1 into internal and external. What do you mean by internal? That is within the organization. Okay. Within the organization use different mediums. External communication means in order to give information for the outside of the parties, the organization will use external communication methods. Okay. So in internal communication, it can be either oral, written, signs and symbols. In external communication, it also can be divided into oral, written and signs and symbols. Again, categorization 3. You can divide this oral media into electronic and non-electronic form. You can divide the written media into electronic and non-electronic. You can divide signs and symbols into non-electronic and electronic and non-electronic, further internal and external as well. So we will see the difference now. Okay, so it will be easier for you all to understand the difference, right? So in this particular table, you can see these are the main three communication media: verbal, written, signs and symbols. I already told you. Then if you take verbal, you can divide this verbal into internal communication media and external communication media. So under internal communication media, you can further divide this into electronic and non-electronic. Okay? So under verbal, internal, electronic, you can see the method. These are the methods. These are not media. These are the media. Okay, these are the media. The media can be categorized into these verbal, written, signs and symbols, internal and external, electronic and non-electronic. These are the methods. So under each of these media, you can have several methods like this. Okay. So what is verbal, internal, electronic? Intercom. That is, within the organization, you can use intercom. So intercom is actually a telephone network which you can use within the organization, and in this telephone system you cannot connect with the outside parties. Only the employees inside the organization can use these intercom facilities, and they will give a separate number to dial to each of the departments. They will get separate number, and with that they can only communicate within the organization, not from the outside the organization. Non-electronic. So this is electronic. Telephone is an electronic communication method. Non-electronic is face-to-face interview. If an organization is going to have an interview, you have to go there and you have to face it, right? It is not electronic form. So that is called face-to-face interview. You will meet the respective employer when you go there. Conferences. We request many people to come for a particular conference, and we discuss many things, many topics, many themes we discuss there. Internal meetings are in every organization, maybe twice a month, maybe once a month, maybe quarterly. They will conduct internal meetings. So they come and sit, and they will get together, and they will talk face to face, and they will conduct the meeting. So those are non-electronic, no electronic form, right? But now actually with this COVID pandemic, we have moved to these interviews, conference, and even internal meetings into electronic form. Okay, through video conferencing, we have moved to the electronic forms. If so, it comes under electronic. Then external, that is verbal, external, electronic. For the external parties, we can use these type of electronic methods like telephone. We can use telephones in order to get any response from our customers or the suppliers, to give any information to our suppliers. Mobile phones. So this telephone is like a fixed line. This is mobile phone or tablets. And loudspeakers. That is also electronic form that organization can use to give information. Like in carnivals, you can see the loudspeakers are used to give information for the general public. Voicemail. Voicemail is recorded mail. Okay, if you want to send some mail, apart from writing it, you can record your message and you can send. So when the receiver receives it, he or she can hear the recording after some time. Okay, so that is called voicemail. So that is also an electronic communication method. Non-electronic. Earlier days we used drums. Okay, if the king wants to give any messages to their citizen, then they use drums, right? And public meetings, still we use some political parties in election days, we use public meetings in order to give information or make aware the public on certain things. So that is non-electronic, but the external parties and verbal. Written communication, internal, electronic. What are the things? Electronic notice board in organization, we can see if you go to the organizations inside, they use electronic notice board and they put all the digital notices there. And emails. For internally, you can use emails in order to communicate with your employees. Non-electronic. Memos. In organization, there are memos, that is, there is a certain format. Under that format, the format says to which, from whom that this message is going to, who is the person who is that message is writing and to whom that message is going to be delivered, date and all that, and you can write the message and you can send. It is non-electronic. Notices. In your schools, you can see there are notice boards. Okay, and you can put notices. And reports, the organization, they develop annual reports, quarterly reports. Okay, so by that they convey some messages to the respective parties. And external electronic, we can use fax machines. You know that fax machine is an electronic machine that you can write some information in a piece of paper and you can enter, when you enter the piece of paper into the fax machine, the receiving end fax machine should be in switched on form, and when you dial the number, it will dial the receiver's number and that message will be printed on the receiver's end. And emails, you can still use email for the external communication as well. Electronic notice boards like billboards, there are digital billboards that the organization they use to put up their advertisements. And SMSs, most of the time this organization, this business organization, they use SMSs to send information to their customers. And non-electronic for the external written form, letters. Sometimes we get letters from the business organization informing some information like bank statements, like that. Newspapers. Newspapers is one of the source that you can, the organizations can use to give information. Magazines, banners, posters, gazettes, the government they use gazettes, okay, in printed form, in written non-electronic form to give information to the external parties. And signs and symbols, the third categorization. Under internal electronic, you will get electronic bells. Okay, you can see the electronic bells that are fixed on the walls. So the electronic bell. Internal warning signals, mainly in manufacturing organization, there are fire warning signals and smoke detection systems are there. If a smoke is there, then this system can detect that signal, and alarm systems are there. So it is an electronic electronic signs and symbol, and you can use it internally to give some information to your employees. Non-electronic bell, that is the physical, the normal bell that we are using in your schools. Road signs, when you go on the road you can see many signs on the roads, and map depicting the location of the organization. So when you enter in for some organization, the map of the organization is there to detect the places of the organization. And directional footprints. The footprints can be printed to what direction that you can go in mainly in this manufacturing and also in service organization. They use these footprints to direct the employees to the certain directions. And in external signs and symbols as electronic form, you can use warning sirens, like in tsunami warning signals. So sirens can be heard if there are any warning message to be given. Color lights, you can see in the roads color lights in red, orange and green. Ambulance siren is one of the electronic form media that you can use as a symbol. Non-electronic, packing symbols. When you get a package, when you get a equipment that is packed in a package form, there are some signals, there are some symbols on that, whether it is a breakable thing, okay. So there are some symbols, so those are the signs that you can see in the packaging. Railway and road signals, when you go on the road or in the railway, you can see many signals you are seeing. Signs used by deaf, for deaf people we use separate signs for them to understand. Decisions of sport umpires, when you are watching a match, cricket match, you can see the umpires, they use only the signs and symbols, they are signals in order to give message to the spectators and also for the cricketers. So their body language actually makes that symbols, and body movements of the traffic officers. Okay, when you go in the road, the body movements, by that you can understand the signals that they are providing. So actually these are the methods, these are the medias. These are the communication medias, these are the communication methods. So this differentiation is very important to you to understand how this communication is happening. Right. So with that we will move to the electronic communication. So this is very important actually. Why this is important? Because nowadays we mostly use this electronic communication for a communication as the communication media. So we will look at one by one what are the communication methods that we use as the electronic communication media, as the electronic communication methods. First one is internet. So internet is mostly we are using websites in the internet to get some information from our from the businesses. Also the businesses, they use internet in order to provide information for their customers, suppliers and other organizations and all that. So you have to go to their websites in order to get this information. Email. So email is another form of benefit or facility that you can gain through from the internet. So email, there are email providers like examples Google, Yahoo, MSN. So you can go to their website, you can open an account, then you have an email account, then you can communicate with other parties. Intranet. Intranet is a network that is inside the organization which only the organization's employee can access. Okay? So actually that is the same internet. In the same internet, the same website, there is a specific space for only for the employees can access that particular space. An example, if an organization, if they provide a company, then only the employees of the organization can access to that email through the website. Okay, not the external parties can access, only the internal parties can access. So that is called intranet. Voicemail. I told you already, the voicemail is the recorded message. You can use the same telephone system. In social media nowadays, we can use these voice messages in order to send your message. Fax. I already explained, be fax machine for the both sender send and from the receiver send to receive the fax message in a printed form. Mobile phone. Nowadays we highly use this mobile phone, heavily use this mobile phone in order to communicate the messages. Intercom. I told you already, the intercom is a facility given within the organization. It is a telephone system, but only the information can be shared among the employees of the organization. You cannot get a call for the outside people. Video conferencing. Now, with this COVID, I think all of you have moved to your online learning and online education if you have the facility. So we used, earlier days we used Skype, but we have moved to this Zoom, and there are many other video conferencing tools. Even the social media platforms like WhatsApp, Viber, they enable this video conferencing to exchange our information. Instant messaging, you can see the Facebook, they have introduced Messenger, and you have Yahoo Messenger, even WhatsApp, Viber, there are instant messaging facilities for you to communicate. So these are the electronic communication methods. Okay, so we will move to the barriers of effective communication. What are the barriers that we can see in order to have this effective communication? Poor knowledge about the use of modern technical methods. Actually, most of the time for the normal people, they don't have the enough knowledge to understand these modern communication methods. How to use internet, how to use email, how to use video conferencing techniques. They don't have enough understanding. So that is one of the barriers that we can see. External barriers occur in the use of communication equipment. Maybe the noise, maybe the poor signals when you are using equipments, that kind of barriers can be happen. Use of outdated communication system. If the organization doesn't use the newest technologies for their communication, if they still use the old communication equipments, then some barriers can be happen. barriers that occurs in the process of communication means when you send a message, sometimes you have not written the message well, you have not record the message well, okay, and the media that you have selected is not enough, or the bandwidth is not enough to send your message. So that kind of things can be happen during the communication process. Weaknesses that exist in the communication plans, actually the organization should develop a communication plan. When they develop the communication plan, they should identify what is the best method or what is the best media that they should select and what are the best methods of communication. So if they haven't make the communication plan or develop that communication plan, some barriers can be happen. Language problems, knowledge and attitude. Sometimes the receiver, the language of the receiver will differ from the sender's language. So then the message cannot be understood or message cannot be understood. Knowledge and attitudes, the knowledge, the level of understanding and the attitude of using a communication channel of a receiver, maybe the sender, is a barrier for the effective communication. Now I move to the advantages of disadvantages of each of these media. Advantages of verbal communication: the ability to present a problem in greater detail and present it by discussion. So when you are using your verbal communication, you can have a better explanation, better discussion, because most of the time the sender and the receiver, they will meet face to face, and you can clarify your questions when the sender communicate the message. If the receiver if the receiver doesn't understand the message, they can clarify the message at the same time. The provider and the receiver of the information become much closer. They will meet face to face. The ability to present information fast and confidentially. So you can communicate very fast, and confidential messages can be communicate between this face to face or verbal communication. Disadvantage verbal communication is the possibility of language problems. If the language of the sender and receiver is not in a same format, then there will be some disadvantages. Problems of exchanging information with parties who are verbally weak. Some people, they cannot put up the message into the words, so that in that particular moment you will be find there may be barriers, disadvantages. Existence of proof that the information is communicated because most of the time in verbal communication there is no proof that you have told this thing, right? But now you can record the message, but it is not actually very effective way. But if you compare to the written communication, in verbal communication the proof is not there most of the time. And in written communication, what are the advantages? It is possible to provide information in greater detail. Okay, in written you can write many things, so you can provide many details, right? Can be used as a proof of the transmission and receipt of the information. So there can be evidences there. There are evidences actually. If you write a letter, if you write a book, there are evidences, right? It is possible to transmit data, notes, tables, graphs easily. Actually, compared to the verbal communication, in verbal communication, it is very difficult to transmit this data, notes, table verbally. But in written communication, you can transmit this data, notes and table very easily. Disadvantages of written communication is there can be in understanding the information. When you write something, based on the receiver's understanding only, they can interpret it. So sometimes it is difficult to write, understand. Sometimes you cannot read the language, you cannot read the handwriting. So these things can happen. If the recipient has reading difficulties, the transmission of the information become difficult. So sometimes there are recipients who has reading difficulties. So in that case, the written communication will not work. The information may be get distorted in the transmission process. When you write something, sometimes some pages may be distorted. So then you can the message, the receiver will not receive the correct message. Signals and symbols. In signals and symbols, advantages of signs and symbols. කල් හරි වැරදුනා පොඩ්ඩක්. මෙතන ඉඳන් කියනවා. හරි හරි. Then the signs and symbols. Okay. In signs and symbols, what are the advantages of signs and symbols? In signs and symbols, the ability to present information brief and clearly. So in signs, actually you can see very brief picture. In signs, in road signs, you can see a very brief picture. So here you can present the information in very brief manner. And accuracy of the information is at higher level. So because these signs are actually a standard sign, so it is very accurate. The ability to understand information easily. When you see some signs, you can understand the message very easily rather than in written or verbal form. What are the disadvantages of signs and symbols? There will be problems in exchanging information where the recipient suffers from a sight impairment. There are persons who have sight impairment. They cannot see things. So in that case, there are disadvantages when you provide signs and symbols. If signs and symbols get distorted over time, miscommunication can occur. Sometimes these signboards may fallen. So then there may be information barriers for the communication of information. It can be difficult to understand some sign and symbols. Sometimes the receivers, they will find difficulties in understanding this because it needs prior knowledge of understanding these symbols and signs. You should have a prior knowledge in order to understand these signs and symbols. If not, you cannot get the correct meaning of the signs and symbols. So with that, I am going to conclude this communication topic now. Thank you all of you.